they were fine. Yeah, you'll see I loaded a bunch. Fantastic. Oh, I love how, Sarah, you don't think I can actually start marking you negatively when your assignments are submitted to me. That's what I love, students that actually believe that I have a heart. It's evening, everyone. And before I destroy every bit of self-image that anyone has in here, including myself, let have a glance at this. It's actually quite interesting because tonight we're looking at this. I just want to move. I'd move that there. Right. So it's an interesting one. And so what I did is I did a couple of searches just to see what came out of the search in terms of adapters and innovators. And then I'll chat to each of those. But what I found quite interesting is, first of all, this one here, I'm pretty sure no one had a chance to look at it. So we know that the printing press would have been at the top in terms of changing the world. I mean, printing the Bible and etc. etc. And then have a glance at some of the stuff that happened so early, and yet we tend to think that they're pretty new. Is that where me we're in the pic where yeah, I was actually there. I was an apprentice doing my apprenticeship back then, guys. I was already 26. Oh, I love it that Neil realizes he's losing big marks. I took the photo. Um, oh yeah, no, wait till I do some proper artwork. It'll be like me playing Pictionary. But what was quite interesting when I looked at this is the computer, 1939, and but the interesting one for me was this, and anesthesia, 1844. My goodness me, that to me is very, very early. So it was quite interesting to look at some of these, the role of antibiotics, and I know that we have to update antibiotics. There were a couple of others that I yeah, that I found interesting, turning crude oil into petrol. And then the interesting one, the internal combustion engine. Who still has an internal combustion engine vehicle? So it means you don't have electric, nor do you have diesel, in case anyone didn't know. I think it has been brewing for years, and we'll talk about that AI and the supposed AI or the Gen AI bubble, and then you can see some of the others, and Bill Gates, a very young Bill Gates, obviously bringing us Windows, and then this one popped up, and I thought, oh gosh, this is so boring because every time we ask questions, we get the same people: Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, the Google guys, and Mark Zuckerberg. So either we are geniuses or we're just very, very boring. And I think it's the second part. I think we default to certain people. The other one that I found is this one, and you can just see in terms of where we are going in the future in terms of EVs. I mean, BYD. If you see the growth of BYD globally, it's an astonishing brand, and when you read up on it, amazing, amazing, amazing what is being achieved, guys. And then you can see some of the other stuff. I mean, some really negative stuff, the role of cybersecurity and the need to have cybersecurity to avoid yeah, my gosh, ransomware. One of my colleagues marked a IT exam, and the person spelled ransomware as RAN, separate word, SOME, separate word, WHERE. When you think the human race is getting more intelligent, then people ran somewhere. Very different, guys. Very, very weird. Have a glance at this. Yeah, 5G and what 5G is capable of, and how it affects so much. that we do. I mean, you can also see some of the other bits and pieces. So if we look at the slides, I found those heck of interesting, and I'm trying to do searches to point us away from the normal people. Well, one of my students, friends, own a couple of BYDs. They are going to be big in South Africa. I'm concerned that all my predictions about the future being, yeah, hydrogen vehicles are all wrong, and that electric is definitely the future. I have a couple of friends with electric vehicles, and what they do is they simply go off the grid. So they have solar and they charge the electric vehicles. Oh, Cape Town will honestly be at the forefront of all of this. There's no doubting that. And I could never see myself in an electric vehicle, but the truth is, should I buy another vehicle? My vehicle is only a year old. I have, oh my, three BYD buckies, but my brain can't process that you could have electric buckies. It makes no sense because a bucky by nature is heavy. I mean, it's so different. But I would imagine that my next vehicle will be electric. I can't see why it wouldn't be. That's the problem, James. Now you've got it's now you've got me in terms of where I'm at. It just doesn't seem right. But I believe we're going to lose out in terms of hydrogen. We're going to lose out in terms of any of those other alternative sources, James, that we've spoken about. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go. Yeah, no, well, they are. They're monsters. They're absolute monsters. They're complete monsters. They can go anywhere. Yeah. And that's why I suppose Toyota has reached out to the South African government to ask for bailout assistance because they're not coping. And the chances of Toyota closing down are big. Ford is in the process of retrenching significant numbers of people. So Ford clearly isn't doing as well as they should. And, you know, what keeps them, I suppose, on the road would be the Ranger. And I'm not going to have a debate between Toyota, Hilux, and Ranger. I couldn't care less either. I think they're both absolutely fine. So let's look at adapters and innovators. So, in terms of adapters, I think these are individuals who take existing solutions, existing, I'll call them innovations, and they improve, they stretch on them, they build on them. For me, adapters are traditionally the Chinese type initial approach to innovation. I think the Chinese have taken over, but I'm not surprised, Sheila. I'm not surprised whatsoever. Well, but Neil, that's exactly it. But people who have driven Tesla and have driven BYD believe the BYDs are better. People believe that the BYDs are better. Now, I'm not going to go into the debate, you know, which one is better or not. But I think the reality is the innovator was Elon Musk in terms of Tesla and the initial vehicles that have been now around for what, 20 odd years, 25 years, give or take, if not more. And then I think the Chinese have arrived as the adapters, tripling that. It's insane where we're going with this. So adapters essentially these individuals that will stay within the paradigm. So remember, we talk about agreed definitions of a problem and its solutions, which means they're not questioning their paradigm. They are saying the paradigm that we're in, the mindset that we're adopting, is absolutely sufficient to deal with the challenges in the world as it is right now. The innovators are those disruptors, those individuals that take dynamite to industries. And I think they challenge everything. And you'll remember from first semester we spoke about critical theory and critical leadership and critical management. And the first rule of critical management is don't accept anything at face value. challenge everything. Just hold everything up to the light. Question absolutely everything. Michal, you're unmuted.
Oh, sorry about that, Doug. Sorry about that.
That's fine. No issue whatsoever. We heard strange noises come from there, so we were concerned. I love I'm surreptitiously trying to finish my cappuccino while I'm talking to Michal and waiting for him to apologize for putting me off. So, in terms of innovators, I think these are individuals that read, Sarah, that redefine the actual questions, that redefine the problem, that find new assumptions. And the key thing, they shift paradigms. They absolutely shift paradigms. And the truth is, it's that kind of initially people will be skeptical, but my gosh, over time, people will find these acceptable. When I saw the first Tesla, I thought this is the most ridiculous thing in the world. I just want noise in V8s. I mean, I hate Formula One in terms of the soundtrack, love to watch it. However, I'd rather go back to the V10s, but we're not going to ever get there. And I think the soundtrack is going to be far worse next year. But I think the reality is we need to realize that we have to hold everything up to the light and we have to question, question, question. In terms of innovators, I think the next big one is going to be around artificial intelligence. And it's going to be interesting to see where AI goes. There is a belief that the AI or the Gen AI bubble. I'm absolutely aware, Ethan. I am aware. Yeah, I'm aware of that. But I think in terms of AI, there's a belief that the Gen AI, the sort of stuff that ChatGPT is about, is going to, the bubble is going to burst, and that AI in future would be task specific. So an AI that identifies I think that's fans being wishful, Akil. That's fans being wishful. Honestly, I don't believe that whatsoever. I think it's the stuff that your your phone listens to and gives you information on. There's no chance of that. I mean, it's going to be proper hybrid next year. So there will be more electricity. It's going to be, yeah, from a soundtrack, very, very different. But I can't believe that that's the case. Ethan, tell me what your talk is there. Oh, she's sorry, guys. Also about the V10s. Yeah, no, I know that some of the drivers have been asking for those to come back, but I think we're far away from that. Anyway, here's hoping, and I love to be proven wrong. Oh my gosh, I love to be proven wrong. So these individuals here are the disruptors. They render previous industries completely obsolete. They rewrite the rules of the game. And the key thing about being an innovator is that when you rewrite the rule of the game, the moment the new rules are in place, you start questioning those rules again. And that's why we've got to quantum computing, and we're still far away from a portable quantum computer, despite the fact that there are videos on the internet suggesting that there are portable quantum computers. There certainly are not. So if we look at where we are from an innovation perspective, it's great to have innovative leaders, but we also have to have these. And I know that we did this last semester, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. The idea of high performance teams. And we've spoken about this extensively. But in terms of innovation, the kind of company that does this exceptionally well will always be your Google. Everything is based around teams. I also think that Tesla is team based, Microsoft is team based, and it's about using the collective brain power of those teams and getting those people to work together. It's great to have visions and it's great to have people with ideas, but you need to make things happen. And please remember, Steve Jobs couldn't write code to save his life. He couldn't write code to get out of a cardboard box. Without Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs' idea of a standalone computer would never, ever have materialized. So, in terms of how do we make these teams, and it's going to be very interesting, in particular in Formula One, where we have got Cadillac coming in next year. What do you rate the chances of Cadillac next year? How do you rate those chances? Because so much has to be in place before that can happen. Because just logically, just putting together a group of highly, highly skilled individuals means they are going to go through these processes. You have to get them together. You've got to allow them to decide the rules and fight and argue. And then you've got to decide what our standard rules of engagement are, and then hopefully get to performance. So, in terms of using groups, who here loves to be part of a group? No, absolutely, Akil, 100%. I think they'll take a bit of time. I also think that it's going to be interesting to see what Adrian Newey can do with Jaguar. But Adrian Newey can't redesign Lance Stroll. And that's the real issue. I think Alonso will be there, but I don't honestly, yeah, yeah. I think there are enough memes on Lance Stroll to let us know how the world views him. Shame, the poor, poor guy, the poor guy. Guys, who here is very good in a team? Really valuable in a team? Jumps in, helps out, is part of the team. Who are the good team workers? Ethan, Tashila, yeah, absolutely, Tashila. Oh, Sarah, wonderful. Who prefers to work on their own? That's wonderful. Kesh, a team player or on your own? I must admit, I'm not good as part of a team, guys. I really am not good as part of a team. I prefer to work on my own. I don't work well with others. Now, I know I'm bad in a team. I really know I'm not very good in a team. And I know that we all expected to be part of teams, but I'm not very good at it, unfortunately. So, in terms of the assets and liabilities, I think there are a couple of these that we've seen, and you to start. It's yeah, sure, Ethan. That's not even the reason. I think, and I've got to be so careful what I say now. Um, I think, sure, okay. I was part of a meeting recently where, at some point, people who I'm friends with in the meeting, we were sending messages to each other that started with the first two letters W and T. Now I will let your imagination run, because I think I don't do well with people who are brainless. And I think we're in a world sometimes where you encounter people who are the empty can syndrome, where there's so much noise, but there is little substance. And then you tend to think, why am I here? I would rather be at the dentist having my root canal done via my eye socket, to be honest with you. So I'm not very good as a team player. And I'm also, and it's that idea of not suffering fools. I wish I were better as a team player. I really wish I were better as a team player, but I'm not very good. And it's not about my way, but I think sometimes, yeah, you think this person has escaped somewhere, and a village is looking for an idiot. So in terms of the specifics here, guys, always more knowledge and information, in particular when you have diverse teams that come from different backgrounds and also come from different functional areas. I think the idea of people building on top on it on each other's ideas very, very keen. And it works really well when you have really competent people around. And I don't say that there aren't competent people. There are lots of competent people. Just my recent experiences have been, yeah, it's been, yeah, less than desirable. I'm trying to be diplomatic. And then, guys, also more experiences, more perspectives. But I also think that when you have a team and they contribute to solutions, they'll accept those solutions. And then the idea of this building cohesion, communication, and companionship. And for me, companionship is something that I struggle with. I have a select few people that I get on with at where I work, and they're amazing people. I mean, it's so bad that we've got a group called Lecture Lounge Besties, and that there's six people in that Lecture Lounge Besties, to be honest with you. So, guys, in terms of the other side of the coin, I think the first one is this idea of groupthink. And that to me is sometimes where I think people, in order to not be unpopular, just go, oh, well, yeah, great idea. And then they undermine the idea. So the first two go hand in hand. This idea of pushing your ideas, and then because you don't want to be unpopular. I love being unpopular. I don't know why I like being unpopular. I suppose it was my parents didn't like me. And then also just sometimes you have dominant individuals, which I'm accused of being. I don't know. And then the one thing and the key thing for me, sometimes what happens in terms of these groups is that people will take the most insanely risky decisions because when because the moment things explode, you tend to end up in a situation, well, it wasn't me, it was the group. So groups will often take seriously risky decisions. And it's that kind of, well, it wasn't me, it was the group. Very, very, very dangerous. And then also just, I think this idea of creating winners and losers, and, where you have your individual biases and those that look at the world the same way, those little cliques that form, not very good, guys. I really am not very good in a team. I wish I were, but at least I'm able to admit it. Um, but can I also just say, other people look at me and they think, "What an idiot!" So don't worry. Don't think that this is just from my side. And then, oh gosh, and then I haven't made anyone cry at varsity college in a very, very long time. And on Friday, I made someone cry. I felt awful. I felt really, really devastated. So you must know, I'm a problem. I'm a problem, everyone. Staff member, Georgia. No, I can't share the staff member. No, a misinterpretation. Um, a misinterpretation. I sent a response to something that had happened and it was serious. And my response was, oh, I thought it was fantastic. The guy at Varsity College, Maritzburg, our head of academics, described my response as delicious, which you can't believe what a compliment that is from him. And what then had happened is this person saw the email train and somehow thought this response was directed at her. And I'm thinking, it's not possible. So, yeah, I made someone cry. It really wasn't good. Guys, we've looked at these before, and this is what you dream of. This is the kind of team that you want to be part of. Yeah, well, you know what? I haven't done it in a long, long time. I mean, once, and I'm sure I've shared this with you guys. I was during my performance appraisal at Varsity College Pietermaritzburg. I had this most wonderful principal, this amazing leader, and he said to me, "Please stop making admin cry." And I've been pretty good for 10 years. So I think if you look at those specific criteria, I think it must be magnificent. Thanks to Sheila for that. To Sheila, we won't even talk about, yeah, when you and I met. I don't know if you guys know that Tashila came to Maritzburg. So there are these two people who sit in the lecturer's lounge. Can I share? Sorry, Tashila.
Yes, Doc, you can share.
And my first words to them are, "Who the hell are you?" And I'm, and I'm thinking, okay, these might be very senior people. And they turned out to be very senior people from head office. And Tashila just thought, well, oh my gosh. Were you surprised by that question?
Very surprised.
I thought that's what you'd expect from me. That's my personality. Oh gosh, not there wasn't that bad. And then I became charming. Tell them how amazingly charming I can be.
Doc was
Yeah, you know.
amazing.
So, guys, if you think of those criteria, I think it must be an absolute privilege to be part of those kinds of teams. I think when you're surrounded by scary, bright, and scary, competent people, the one thing with my oldest son is he said he used to walk into meetings knowing that he was always the brightest in the room. He now says he walks into meetings and he thinks, "Oh my gosh." No, I've not made Sheila cry. Now he walks into meetings and he says, "Dad, these people are scary bright." And I think that's the kind of environment that you want to be in. In Google, people will often talk about the fact that you go to work to interact with the best brains in the world. And then on top of that, how these brains essentially are used to learn from. I think when you can learn from people in those kinds of groups, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful place to be. Can I ask an interesting question? Anyone in a group that ticks each of those boxes, or a team, my apologies, that ticks each of those boxes? It's very difficult to do. Anyone in that kind of team? Sarah, you're very lucky. You're very lucky because we're a big group here, hey? I'm concerned that I have shared this with you, and my apologies if I have. And it's just me wanting to use my art again. And there is a theory, and if I've shared this with you, I apologize. Art time, yeah, baby. There is this, oh dear Lord. One of my students from Westville listens to these lectures and then takes pictures and cuts my fancy art out and then sends it around. And then I think, wow, that was magnificent. I should turn it into an NFT. Rembrandt has indeed returned. Or the ghost of Rembrandt, where he's had his hands cut off. There's a theory, guys, and I don't know if I've done this before. And the moment when I say there's a theory, it's not a theory. It comes from uh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a touch of Van Gogh as well. The theory is that in every organization, and it is not been proven, I'll explain in a second, but it's not been proven. But the theory is in every organization, you get people who are unconsciously incompetent. They think they're the best thing since sliced bread, but in reality, they should be going through a bread slicer. You get those people who are consciously incompetent. They're useless. They don't care that they're useless. They are generally people that have been there for a long time and often, because of long service, can't be fired because it costs the company too much. Then you get people who are unconsciously competent. I feel very sorry for this group because these are people that are rock stars, but they don't trust themselves. And then you get people who are consciously competent. I can tell you now that in every organization you've ever worked, you've encountered these individuals. Unconsciously incompetent, think that they are Steve Jobs. Well, but Deirdre, that's such a wonderful, wonderful term. The idea of weaponized incompetence. It's the sort of try me and then consciously incompetent and those two. So we have this notion that we could build this wonderful team, but it's tough to do. It's tough to do. Any comments on that theory? It's not a theory. It's a way of breaking the ice when you do training. I often will do that as a bit of fun. Who has worked with unconsciously incompetent people before? Nadia, yeah. Who has worked with consciously incompetent? Yeah. I think these are the you would have, Neil, and you are still working with them. You are still working with them. These are the individuals, and this isn't arrogance. Please, please don't think this is arrogance. These are people that are comfortable in their skin. They know what they're doing. Nadia, you want to say something with your Birkenstock croc there?
Sorry, I
Yeah.
meant to put my hand down again. I
No,
realized I
that's
never put it
fine,
down.
Nadia. That's fine.
But, but no, like previous work, some of the newer people that I've joined, but then they have more experience than me. For some reason, they end up making so many mistakes. So many customers used to be so unhappy. Whenever the phone would ring, I actually got really nervous answering the phone. I would always pray that someone else could answer it because we went through this weird phase where 9 out of 10 times when the customer was phoning back, it was just them wanting to yell at us for the mistakes we've made or, well, the other people have made.
Yeah, no, it's scary. It is scary. I think these are these deliberately, yeah, incompetent people are a real issue. So we love the idea of that notion that we can create this organization, but all of us have worked with those individuals before. And then other bits that contribute to a high performance team. I think the first one is participation in decision making. And I'm not going to say consensus decision making. And I think sometimes when we think of our president, he is just worried about consensus, and consensus is not always the best option. I think you want dissension sometimes. You want the devil's advocate who challenges things, and then this idea of team spirit, that I am proud to be part of this group of individuals, that I'm proud to be associated with this team. I mean, think of the teams that you are with. Who is really proud of their team members? Love the idea that they're in that team. Nice, Sarah. Yeah, no, I expected that, Sarah. There are a couple of people very cool. Neil, you as well. Yeah, absolutely, to Sheila. Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, well, that screening new candidates. Remember, in industrial psychology, we talk about false positives, those individuals that look great, but in reality are incompetent. So we try and weed out the false positives, and we try and, because of screening, get to the true positives, people who during the selection process looked fantastic, but in reality turned out to be superstars. And then also the ability to embrace change. Apology. The ability to embrace change. I think we want people who essentially will question and move away from paradigms. There are tons of paradigms. Well, I mean, in America, and I'm sure I've shared this as well, and my apologies, but in America, on average, if there's a job, I have shared this, you would on average get 250 applications. You would interview 6 people, and then you would get one person who gets the job. So if you apply for any job in America, on average, you have a 1 in 250 chance of getting that. In terms of South Africa, that would take 4,000 to get to interview 8 people, because that's the reality of how unemployment levels. We advertise positions and people will literally get thousands and thousands, but we know that AI now does the screening as well. So what causes teams to fail? Well, the truth is, yeah, and I don't want to question your selection methods, but the truth is that the interview is the most overused but most ineffective way of hiring. Interviews should generally be used to confirm what you found out through other assessment instruments. So I quite like the idea of the multiple hurdle approach. So you place, yeah, those hurdles don't look great, a number of hurdles in front of candidates, and you use your interview process to verify what you had received here. And at each point, people fall out. And so by the time you get to interview, it's more a verifying thing, but also, and if this goes really well, you would generally use a situational interview. You've arrived at work, HR position, you've arrived at work, people have down tools. What is the first thing you do? What do you do once you've done that? So you create scenarios that people have to attend to. In terms of what could cause teams to fail, the first one, yeah, the idea of rewarding teams as a collective. What is the headache around that? And we see it in group assignments. When you reward teams as a collective, we see it in group assignments. What does the term social loafing mean? The idea that everyone shares in the spoils, but not everyone contributes equally. Social loafing. Yeah. Well, that's exactly it, Georgia Jade. It's exactly that, Sarah. I think when you do this collective reward, and you have to make sure that those individuals in the team with you are all contributing equally. The second one, and for me, I think I hate the idea that teams are told you carry out these tasks and you will achieve whatever you need to achieve. My approach is very much, this is what we want you to build. We don't care how you go about it. When you start telling teams, do A, B, C, like a job description, this is going to bomb on you. They must know what must be achieved, but it's up to them to make it happen. And then it's this idea of structured freedom. So highly empowered, but again, it's not the idea of this is a riot happening in the organization. Remember, we spoke about the chaotic type structure, where's that magic mix between chaos and a lot of empowerment, but also order, often tied together by your vision. And then just your support structures and your systems. I think once we've got these goals set, I think you have to make sure that there is a clear line of sight between behavior and reward. And that line of sight can only be achieved if people can see how their contributions and what they've done results in their rewards. And I think the last one is this assumed competence. But what was quite interesting is that you want technical skills, but also telling and teaching people how to work as part of a team. And maybe this is why I'm so completely useless at teamwork. Guys, I'll stop there. So that my apologies, I've stolen 15 minutes tonight. Any questions, any comments?